Chapter 17. Taylor was walking down the hall when she heard heavy footsteps behind her. She expected Scout and was about to turn around and yell when she heard an unexpected voice. "Wait up!" She stopped and turned. That skinny boy, Garth, was jogging up to her. He smiled and said, "Can I walk with you?" "I'd rather be alone." "No, you wouldn't. Trust me. You need to vent, and I'm a good listener." She stared at him. He had a cute sideways grin on his face. "I guess you're right." "I know a cool place where we can be alone. Do you trust me?" "I just met you." "I won't hurt you." His smile grew. "All right," Taylor said. She followed him down to the show floor and up an escalator. There was a large, closed-off area that reminded her of the auditorium in her high school. There were several large closed doors and a sign advertising the panel that would occur later in the day. "I'll be right back," Garth said, and then backed away. Then he ran toward the wall next to the doors and disappeared into the ceiling. Taylor grinned at the stunt. After a few seconds, one of the doors popped open. Garth reached out and took Taylor's hand, pulling her inside. The dimly lit ballroom was smaller than Taylor thought it would be. There was a small stage at the far end, with a few rows of tables lined up with black blankets covering them. Between the intruders and the stage was nothing but open space. Taylor assumed this space would be filled with folding chairs soon. "Impressive stunt work," Taylor said, walking slowly toward the stage. "Thanks." Garth followed, his hands in his pockets. "Do you like Bad Logic?" she asked him, remembering the sign outside. "I used to watch it with my mom." "Scout loves that show." Taylor rubbed her wrists nervously, trying to hide the action from the other. He noticed anyway. "I saw the scars," he said. She spun around to look at him. "And just when I thought I was hiding them well." He smiled, rolled up his sleeves, and showed his wrists. He had similar white scars. "After all these years, I haven't quite mastered the art of hiding mine either. I saw yours when we were playing the zombie game." Taylor lightly touched his scars. "What happened, if you don't mind me asking?" "I don't mind, as long as you don't mind when I ask you in return." Taylor smiled. "I won't mind." Garth walked up to the stage and sat down on it. Taylor joined him as they sat in front of the tables. "I know I'm not the only person who had a terrible childhood," he began. "I was lucky to have an escape from my problems when I was a kid. Can you guess what that was?" "Comic books?" He laughed, and Taylor thought it was one of the nicest laughs she'd ever heard. "That's right," he continued. "I read them all the time when my parents fought. I used to trace the characters on the pages. I got so good that I was able to draw characters without tracing. I guess that tells you how much my parents fought." "I'm sorry," Taylor said, rubbing his back. He tensed up at first, and then relaxed after a few seconds. "Things got worse between my dad and me after my mom died. She killed herself when I was 8. He stopped, as if his throat had closed. Finally, he said, "He had the audacity to blame me for her death." Taylor didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. "One day, Dad found my drawings while I was at school and destroyed them. I came home and saw them shredded all over my room. He even destroyed all my comic books." "That must have been traumatizing." It definitely was. So traumatizing that I slit my wrists later that day. Taylor felt like she'd been punched in the chest. Even though she'd known that was coming, Garth had said it so casually that it freaked her out. I honestly tried to kill myself, he went on. Maybe even tried to leave Dad and join Mom. I even changed my last name from Ferguson to Hauser to honor her. But I didn't slit my wrists right, and I ended up in the hospital before I could bleed to death. You shouldn't think like that, Taylor said. I mean, I kinda know what you've been through. More so than anyone else, at least. You have to find better ways to live your life. Get rid of the people who make your life hell. Oh, I did, he said quietly. I mean, Dad died shortly after my attempt. He had a heart attack, but I like to think it happened because I kept wishing he would die. I know I don't have that power, but, you know. Yeah, I know. She nudged his shoulder. I used to wish my mom would. She trailed off. She was about to say die, but it would have been incredibly inappropriate, considering what he'd just told her about his own mom. What about Scout? He suddenly asked, clearly changing the subject. She snapped to attention. What? You keep pushing her away, don't you? Oh, yeah, I guess. Is she toxic? Taylor sighed. No, she's one of the bravest girls I've ever met. She saved my life. Then why aren't you two together? I honestly don't know. We just bring out the worst in each other sometimes. Garth snorted. That's silly. If you love her, you should be with her. You think so? I know so. They sat silently in the ballroom for a moment. Then Garth said, Can I tell you something really personal? Sure. I've never kissed a girl before. Are you serious? He nodded. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've never kissed a boy before. He laughed. Well, you have the perfect excuse. I don't. Girls just don't like me. I like you. They stared at each other for a moment. Tell you what, she said. Let's cross these off our bucket lists. I'll kiss you, and you kiss me. Garth's eyes grew wide. Really? Taylor laughed and nodded. Yes, just for fun, though. I'm still gay. I understand. She placed her hand on his shoulder. After a moment, she then grabbed one of his hands and placed it on her shoulder. The poor boy was trembling. She leaned close to him and smelled beer on his breath. For some reason, she liked that. Garth and Taylor grew closer until their lips touched. His breathing sped up. Taylor was relieved he didn't try to stick his tongue in her mouth. They simply touched lips for 10 seconds. Then they parted. How was that? She asked. Super. Duke awoke in the chair by the air conditioner, moody techno music playing from somewhere. The room was dark and freezing, and he started coughing. Something had awoken him. He saw someone holding the room's door open. Scout. Someone else was coming in. Taylor. About time she came back. The two went to their bed, closest to the bathroom. Duke wondered why he hadn't taken Dante's bed. It wasn't like the boy was sleeping there now. He was probably going to stay with Panzer tonight. Duke knew he should just take the bed. The chair was supremely uncomfortable. However, he knew if Dante returned, he would have no problem jumping into bed with him. Of course, he and Duke wouldn't do anything, but Duke couldn't imagine sleeping in the same bed with a gay guy. So he stayed in his chair, letting the sound of the air conditioner lull him back to a half sleep.